Welcome to the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast, where we don't take from insurance companies. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordon Comstock and Mr. Ben Tuine. This podcast is sponsored by BoomCloud Dental Membership Software, www.boomcloudapps.com, and Veritas Dental Resources, www.veritasdentalresources.com. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I am your host today, Jordon Comstock. With me is my good buddy, Ben Tuine. What's up, Benny boy?
What's up, Jordan?
How's it going, dude?
Hey, happy Coronavirus Day.
Happy Coronavirus Day, man.
I don't want to make light of it.
Yeah, I know. We probably shouldn't. But if we do the math right now, it's like 0.00035% of the population has it right now. Now, obviously, it can go up from there.
Yeah, and it's amazing. I think you look at what's happening with the stock market. I mean, the economy is still relatively okay. Is there a reason to concern? A little bit, but not to the extent that
not a mass hysteria, right?
Yeah. But when you look at what's happening with this whole coronavirus scare as it relates to the economy and just the visible aspects of the economy through the stock market, mm-hmm. I firmly believe that it's all artificial. It's not a permanent crash of the market.
That's exactly what I believe too. I was telling my team this morning that it's totally artificial and like kind of like a forced decrease.
It's a temporary bear market, and it's an artificial bear market simply because investors are smart. When you look at, it's not just stocks. I have stocks. I have.
I just bought more.
It's a good buying time right now, and I also play the money game. The foreign transactions game, and oftentimes when there's big news or little news that doesn't necessarily affect the economy at all, investors like to react to news, and that's what's going on here. Is that investors make a lot of money when they sell off. Because when you have a lot of money moving in that direction and selling, it's a strategy. And when that money is taken out of the market, it's not necessarily going to disappear. The money's there.
Oh yeah.
What usually happens is that when the market takes when a healthy economy takes a deep dive, investors start to look at trends to see, okay, this is going to bounce back. And when it does, you see like what you will see, like we did last week. You had some days where the stock market lost 1,000 points.
Yeah.
And then it gained 1,000 points the very next day because investors were like, maybe it's going to be bouncing back. But, in subsequent days, it went down 1,000 and then yesterday 2,000 points. But in the very near future, and who knows when it'll be, but you'll start to see it rise back up to the mid 25,000s to the.
Well, today it's already started to rise again.
Yeah.
Slightly.
And so, what 300? It's at 356 right now. The Dow Jones.
The Dow Jones. Is that what it is?
Yeah, S&P 500 is up at 500. But it took a little bit of more of a dip, and then it bounced back. That's just the market.
That's just how it works. It creates a lot.
It's not an economic crash, and that's the most important thing to understand. Is it's an artificial health crisis crash. An epidemic, yes, it is an epidemic, but at the same time, countries are getting it under control. Italy eventually will get it under control. China has proven to get it under control. And the best news about all of this is that, the fatality rate, it's not as high as like SARS and measles and a lot of those other things, at least not yet.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm not worried. Like I am 100% confident in the future. I think.
Yeah, I am too. And there's lots of cool things, but today, I write a lot, Ben. You know this. You write a lot too. I like writing, and educating and having fun with just education, right? And I'm writing an article on how to recession-proof your practice. In fact, I have one on my blog right now, and then I've just submitted to Dentistry IQ, which they're going to be posting that pretty soon. But with all this commotion, right, and all this noise that we're seeing right now, and just mass hysteria, as well as like people being proactive, and which I think is great. I think it's smart that we're proactive, in the USA. But I thought to myself this whole week, I'm like, if we were to go into a recession, how can a practice recession proof their business, right? And us too, right? With our own businesses, Ben,
Right.
because we both started companies and were managing companies during the Great Recession of 2009, right? They call it the Great Recession, right? I mean,
Yep.
since the Great Depression, right? It was the biggest recession since then.
We all
Right?
lived through it. We all survived, and guess what? We all thrived.
We all thrived. Yeah, there was opportunities. There was opportunities that were created during that time. Like I was really young. I bought my first house for super cheap. Now and there's tons of equity in my house now. So there's lots of cool things that happen during these times.
Yeah.
But the thing that I wanted to focus on today is how can practices how to recession proof your practice.
Yeah.
Because I think this is something to always prepare for and to be thinking even in a good economy or a temporary, downturn like it is right now. And the first thing that like I said, we both were managing and starting companies during that time. I managed the dental lab during the 2009 recession, which I think was the swine flu as well.
Yeah.
Happened at that time, which
Yep.
affected 61 million Americans, which is crazy. And funny enough, I have never met anyone that got the swine flu with that many people affected,
Right.
which is what 17%, 18% of our population.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, we were scared. The sky was falling, right? And I had just started at the dental lab roughly as a manager, building that with my dad, and it was crazy. And I think the first thing I think most people need to have is they need to have a hustle mindset. Thinking back in that day, like we worked hard to attract new customers and to retain customers. You have to have a hustle mindset, and I think that is great in times in bad times and good times, right? To have that type of mindset. And I was on Dr. Mark Costi's podcast last week, and we kind of talked about this. Have a hustle mindset. Just that should be an entrepreneurial mindset in general. But then the second thing that became extremely, extremely important was protecting cash flow.
Yes. Yep.
And I think while I was managing dental lab, all the other smaller dental labs were going out of business, right? And it's because they weren't protecting cash flow. My dad at the time was obsessed with cash flow, and we were constantly figuring out ways at the dental lab to improve cash flow and systematize it, right? And it was really tough with the dental lab. It's really tough to really systemize cash flow. And I think now, like running a software company, everything is predictable, automatic revenue. It comes in on the 1st and the 15th. And if you don't know what cash flow is, it's basically timing of money. Do you think that's a good description, Ben? Timing of money?
Yeah.
So here at Boom Cloud, we obviously have a cash flow system. I know exactly how much revenue is going to come in on the 1st and the 15th of each month. That's how we manage our cash flow, is the 1st and 15th of each month. And then I use a percentage-based budget here, Ben. So every month we have a profit margin. It's a profit margins, or profits don't just happen. They're calculated. They're planned for, right? So I allocate in my own my business budget how much profit that I want to make, right? And that's a percentage. I use a percentage-based budget. So every month profit is being put away, and we're using, if for growth, we're allocating some of that for growth, right? And that's what I do every month. And right now we have a large reserve fund for our business, and we didn't have that at the dental lab because I think when I started, the recession hit, and we didn't really have time to prepare, right? Which with this downturn right now, or this people being so fearful right now, I think it's smart to talk about this and be like, okay, I'm going to start preparing now to recession proof my practice. And it all starts with cash flow and percentage based budgets, and forcing forcing a profit, really, whether it's 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever you can do, right? You can start little and start working your way up. A good book that I recommend reading on that is called Profit First by Michael Michalowicz. And I'm pretty bummed out. Dr. Mark Costes from the Dental Success Network and Institute, they just canceled their event, I think at the end of this month, which I'm super bummed for. I was like, well, in a way I'm bummed, but at the same time, I'm not, because I was only going to be able to fly down there for one day. Now I might be able to go the whole time, but he has Michael Michalowicz coming, Ben. And
really?
Michael Michalowicz wrote the book Profit First. I'm a huge fan of that method of creating profit in businesses. And I think every business and practice owner should read that book. But protecting cash flow is the first step to recession, making your practice recession proof.
Yeah. And how you do that is, there's multiple ways.
Sure.
Recurring revenue through membership plans. That's a predictable way to know exactly what you're going to get paid on a month-to-month basis for people that are paying it.
Yeah. On that, real quick, Ben. Well, you know what? I'll talk about that in down the line here. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
So you have that, but most practices, uninsured patients are a minority of their patient base. But one thing to consider is that among your own PPO patients, the vast majority of people that have dental insurance, they have dental insurance through their employer group.
Sure.
And there are a lot of talks right now in terms of, state and federal governments finding ways to protect the small businesses. The big businesses will be okay. They're the only ones that seem to get a bailout financially from the federal government.
Which is ridiculous.
And rightly so, because, without these big businesses, it's a huge cog in the economy, that without them sometimes, the financial institutions, small businesses wouldn't be able to operate. So, but for small businesses, it looks like there's more discussion, more than that I've ever seen in previous years or previous administrations, that are going to keep measures to protect small businesses. So what that means is that your insured patient base will still remain intact.
Sure.
There may be a quarantine. Yes, that could happen, but the purpose of protecting cash flow is in this podcast, at least what we're going to talk about, is to prepare for the times when no patients come in.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which is crazy, and that's why well, let's move up. I'm going to move up creating recurring revenue to the third point or the second point here, because that's just a good transition, Ben. Yeah, if there's a quarantine and if there's a lower amount of patients that show up to the office, I have here a dashboard pulled up on my screen from one of our clients that uses Boom Cloud. They have $40,000 in predictable recurring revenue coming in every month, or just shy of $500,000 coming in just membership fees, with almost 2,000 active membership patients. If nobody shows up tomorrow to their practice, they still have revenue pumping in automatically every month into their practice, right? And I think, on top of, protecting your cash flow, increasing your cash flow through like a membership plan with recurring revenue from those membership fees. Can you imagine if nobody showed up for the next couple of weeks to your practice? Like, this is obviously exaggerated, but if maybe not, you never know, right? But if nobody showed up in the next couple of weeks, but you've created a membership program that is solid, like this one that I just read here, that has about $40,000 coming in each month, I think you're going to sleep really well at night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we went through this back in 2008.
Yeah.
We had one of our practices up in Anthem, Arizona, the group practice that I was working for. Before the recession hit, this is one location, we were doing 350 to 400,000 in revenue a month.
Uh-huh.
And 25% of that was coming in from our own in-house membership plan.
Oh, that's fantastic.
When the recession hit, we went down to 70,000 in revenue a month.
Holy
Huge
smokes.
hit.
Yeah.
And we were very aggressive in our marketing. People knew us, and we had all specialties. We could do it all in that group practice. We had 15 operatories. Huge location.
Wow.
And what we found is that the membership plan and then other measures to, the 75,000 that we earned almost all of that was from the membership plan and the existing patients that had insurance. What we noticed is that we didn't, thinking back then, this is the first time, young team, we've never been through a recession.
Yeah.
So we didn't really know measures to protect the business from, taking that big dip of a cash flow
Huge
loss.
dip. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but looking back now, it's like, you know what? Most of the people that ended up coming back in late 2008, late 2009, nothing changed. They still had their insurance, they still had coverage.
Yeah.
They just skipped a recall visit, and we didn't proactively go out and get them to schedule. And that's because the majority of these people, they retain their insurance, but we were freaking out the same way everybody else was. And everybody, it seemed like as if most of the patients were like, well, we better stop spending, forgetting the fact that, your cleanings and all that, they're free. And if all we did were cleanings on those patients, free by their, well, I shouldn't say free, they're covered at 100%.
Sure. Yeah.
The numbers would have indicated that we would probably still would have hit 200,000 that month, taking a 50% cut in revenue as opposed to, what was that? An 80% cut in revenue, or
Yeah,
70% cut in revenue.
It's crazy.
So, you gotta prepare for that and just keep that in mind. Membership plans is a great way to do it in terms of reoccurring revenue, but also be aware that most of your patients that have insurance are going to have pretty reasonable and stable jobs, through a recession.
Yeah. Most absolutely. Well, and on that note, I think the next thing that practice needs to keep in mind is just keeping costs predictable.
Yeah.
Right. And at least, I mean, I like predictable costs, Ben. I don't know. I don't like variable costs as much. I don't know if that's just my preference, or I don't know what your mindset is on that.
No, that's smart. Fixed costs, predictable costs. You know what your outgoing expenses are every month.
Yeah,
and
and
you can plan ahead.
Majority of, at least at Boom Cloud, majority of our expenses are pretty fixed, and it's pretty predictable. I can make a pretty simple budget to monitor everything and to manage cash. Another thing I think that practice need to think about in regards to keeping costs predictable, or even lowering costs is, I mean, you can look at insurance as a cost, right? Yeah. So like renegotiating your the contracts with insurance so you can take home more money. That's what you do, Ben. You're the expert on that. Yeah. I think that's a smart way to number one, protect your cash flow, increase your cash flow, and lower your costs. Really,
you bring up a good point, because in times of recession, and I'm not saying that that's where we're headed. There's a possibility, but we do need to be prepared for it. But in times of a recession, you it's a given that you're going to have more time on your hands, and that's a perfect opportunity to look at the business and improve the business functions. Fees, marketing, things of that nature, or at least prepare. When I was in school, I loved reading books like, oh gosh, I can't remember them anymore, the names of the books. But a few of the books that I used to read talked about why the United States became such a prosperous country. Uh-huh. And in the wintertime, a lot of the farmers couldn't do anything. So essentially they're like, sitting around the polar bears, they stocked up for the winter.
Sure. Yeah.
Hibernated. But the difference is that the farmers didn't hibernate. What they did during the downtime, the cold months where they couldn't grow, they couldn't make money, is that they innovated. And so when the new grow season started, they started to have more efficient machinery,
and better systems.
Yeah.
I think that's a topic to consider that I don't think we've written down, and I've read articles on that, is in the slow times,
innovation
and figure and improve your systems. Sorry,
exactly.
Ben, I cut you off.
No, you're totally fine. You're totally fine. But that's so key because, I remember I started my business at the tail end of the recession.
Yeah. What was the tail end of the recession? What year was that?
So everybody has a different opinion on it, but I believe mid 2009 things started to turn around.
Yeah.
And that's when I started my business. The dental group that I work for, they continued to close practices even throughout 2009. Mm-hmm. But 2010, things seemed to be pretty normal.
Yeah.
But I started 2009 when practices most practices that we were aware of, they were just struggling, they were just trying to survive. But the interesting thing is that we started in the recession,
Yeah.
and we did great. We found that the service was very much still needed, but practices at that point started to, they started to rebound. Unfortunately, like in Arizona, I think in 2008, there were over 600 practices that closed in Arizona. And that was just
Shut down?
Yeah, that
Holy
flat out
smokes.
shut down. And what I was told when I first started dentistry is that healthcare is a recession-proof industry.
Yeah.
But what I quickly learned is that, there's a difference in terms of how the hospitals operate and how smaller businesses operate, chiropractors, dental practices,
Sure.
veterinarians,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that you have less resources as a sole practitioner than the large hospital chains have. Hospital chains have access to angel funds and private equity and all that. But the small businesses back then were really neglected. I am so happy to hear all this talk from the Trump administration about measures to protect the small businesses, like the small SBA loans.
Yeah.
Reducing those rates, that's something that's key. That's something that, during the downtime, during your innovation time or creative time, is to call the banks, figure out on how to get an SBA loan prepared in the event that you do need to pull the trigger. Because what I will tell you, it's not going to last forever. These
Opportunities
scares,
and
they come and go. But you just have to be prepared.
But with like we were talking before, with every like downturn of whether it's a short-term turn of the economy, there's always opportunities that pop up, right? Like it's just not the sky is falling. Like, I mean, when I managed the dental lab, everyone in the lab was saying the sky is falling, the world's gonna end, right? Like seriously, and I'm like, you guys are ridiculous. Like there's so many opportunities right now to grow and to analyze our systems and to just rethink how this business is running and improve it, right?
Exactly.
And that's another thing. Like don't let fear scare you. And most everyone I think listening that have been through the recession, I mean, it doesn't scare me anymore. Like if I hear a recession, I've got younger guys here at the office, and like some of them are freaked out. I'm like, hey, this is how you get through it. It's not that hard. You got to hustle. You got to protect cash flow. Like it's down to the basics of business if you think about it.
Yep.
You know?
And for any of you that are not in an ideal situation, where you don't have a reserve to protect yourself through hard times, look into the banks to see if you can get a loan, the SBA loans and
SBA loans, those resources.
Yeah. But even still, I remember 2008 hit when I lost my job in Arizona at the dental. Actually, I quit, but they were gonna let us go anyway because they were behind like 3-4 weeks on paying any of us.
Oh yeah, I was in that boat too when I quit dental lab. It was hard.
But I'd say I'd say most people have a network of a support system, whether it be through family, friends, through your church, through your local governments. But we live in a great nation that it's hard for me to believe that if you are in a bad situation, don't beat yourself up too much. If you do need to get help, then get help.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of, if you don't know anybody, call us. We're, and I don't think any human being would tolerate letting other people suffer and watching other people suffer. Totally. Especially if you have children, there's a lot out there. And that's what I learned is that, moving from Arizona to Utah during that recession, I saw a lot of people go, lose their jobs and all that. But they got help, they got help from a number of different institutions. And the best thing about that is that within a year, they were able to rebuild, it's kind of like when in the islands, you hear about these natural disasters that occur.
Absolutely.
I remember we were the only house that was left standing.
Wow.
I think it was 1992. I was probably maybe 11 years old, 10 years old. And this category 4 hurricane came, and imagine houses built just with nails and 1-inch plywood or 1-inch siding and a frame.
Wow.
And nothing else.
Yeah.
And when the storms came, the houses disappeared.
Just crumbled. Yeah.
But our house, for some reason, did not go. The villagers in the middle of the night would flee their homes because the wind would take them away,
Holy smokes.
and they would manage to make it over to our house. We had 0 fatalities in our village that year, but we had a lot of chaos happening.
Mm-hmm.
We had no assistance. This is a U.S. territory. We didn't even get a state of declared emergency for almost a year later.
Holy smokes.
When you declare a state of emergency, funds start to funnel, start to come in by the federal government to aid and assist. We didn't get any of that. We didn't need it.
Yeah. You hustled?
Yeah. We hustled.
We worked together. You teamed up.
But here's the funny thing. By the time the federal government aid came, we were already rebuilt.
So now it was growth money then, right?
It was money that they just used to stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
But by the time our quote unquote savior came, we didn't need it because as a people, in a very much primitive society, we always lived by that mindset to live frugal, live lean, prepare for the future.
Smart. Yeah.
Have food storage. That's something that our church taught us, is that you have to have your food storage. You have to have your clean water supply. And we took that seriously, or at least my parents took that seriously.
Become self-reliant on all. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so, those small things that you do as a household to prepare for hard times, for me at least, learning that on what my parents did, I adopted those same rules in my business. I have a reserve fund. If I get no revenue for the next year or two, we're totally fine.
Yeah.
We live every day. We operate every day lean to prepare for what's happening today.
Well, I think that's just smart anyways, right? You and I were talking a few weeks ago. You came into the office here and we had some lunch, and you're talking about like private equity and those types of, those businesses that rely on private equity, which they don't have a lean mindset. They rely on, huge sums of money given to them, not from customers, but from investment firms. And they just burn cash, burn. Those are the companies that really struggle, I think.
Oh yeah. When I worked at one of those companies.
Yeah. And when the economy, goes sour or whatever, the companies that are just burning cash and they're not being lean, they're not focused on customer funded mindset of business, in my opinion. Those companies just die.
Yeah, because they're not self-sustaining. They don't have any self-sustaining revenue to cover their operational expenses.
Yeah.
Whereas the dental group that I started with, once the recession hit, they couldn't keep up with that $1 million payroll every month. And what happened was they the way they kept up with payroll at one point is that they raised money, they raised investment. That is a scary way to go.
It is. Yeah, well, it locks you in with some handcuffs, right?
Exactly. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of those investors lost money because that group ended off selling for parts, basically.
Yikes.
Yeah. But lesson learned with that is that you just have your reserve, and every month, even outside of a recession, in times of prosperity, we put more into our reserve fund. Our rainy day fund.
That's what we do too.
Yep.
Put reserves away and just be smart and lean, and being lean or frugal is not like cheap, right? Yeah. Don't be cheap. If something like, for example, Ben's service has a great ROI on it, right? My service has a great ROI on it.
Huge.
And this is maybe a shameless plug for both of us, but if you think about it, I was looking at some stats the other day. We had a practice that they pay the software is $300 a month to help them manage cash flow and membership patients, right? This practice was getting like an 80x return on what they pay us.
Right.
Like an 80x return. Like they pay us $3,600 a year or whatever the annual is. And they were making like, I'm trying to think what it was like. There was one that was making $500,000 a year just through the membership. That may be more than 80x, but there was another one I'm thinking of. I can't remember their numbers, but it's pretty crazy. Like Ben, you're renegotiating fees and stuff, and having somebody like you help them do that, because that's your specialty. That's what you do every day. That's what you focus on every day. You are a master of that skill, right?
Yeah.
Whereas it's like, if I were to call somebody for like a service and go and say, hey, I'm going to call this plumber to help me with my electrical needs, right? That's ridiculous, right? So calling somebody like Ben, he's specialized. Instead of like trying to do it yourself, that's my analogy, the plumber, calling the plumber to do electrical needs. You're the dentist, you're focused on, your practice, or you're the office manager, you're focused on insurance. Ben is a negotiator, right? He focused on negotiation and building those, and helping you increase cash flow. That's an amazing return on investment. I don't know your stats, Ben, of some of your customers, but I know that there's a high ROI on negotiating.
Yeah, there is.
Contracts.
Usually, once you get the negotiated fees, most of the time they stick with you. And so, over a 5-year period, you're looking at close to what you say, an 80 to 1 ratio, sometimes
Sure.
a 200 to 1 ratio if
Yeah,
you're
just
lucky.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely have
But-
people know that case too. So just to recap, so we don't go too long, I think we covered everything, Ben. But in how to prepare your practice for a recession, or how to recession proof your practices, I like that title way better. It's because you're being proactive, right? Be proactive.
Right.
So recap: number 1, protect cash flow. 2, keep costs predictable. 3, build a reserve fund. 4, get lean, and understand ROIs, I think is kind of what we talked about there. Have a hustle mindset and a optimistic mindset, right? Don't be fear-based.
Yep.
Diversify your you can diversify your customer base and attract, uninsured patients and insured patients. We briefly talked about this, but improving your team culture is extremely important. Motivating your team, making sure we use core values here at Boom Cloud that we've created to motivate our team. We have consistent team meetings and build up our team that way. Create recurring revenue, predictable recurring revenue, so that, if you have a down month, you can have automatic revenue coming in, and that helps cash flow. And then 8, look for new opportunities and resources such as SBA loans. I mean, it'd be cool if our government got rid of the payroll tax. I know there's been talks of that.
Huge.
Dude, that's going to increase what? That will increase everyone's bottom line.
Oh yeah.
Employees and businesses by close to 10%, right, Ben? Is that roughly?
I think it's 10%.
I allocate 10%. When I hire somebody, I increase my budget for their salary or their hourly rate by 10%. Is what my accountants told me. So at least, I think if they can do that, it's going to increase morale for your employees, because they get an increase automatically. They take home more money, and then the company, it has more funds to work with that go straight to the bottom line. So look for new opportunities and resources, SBA loans. Hopefully, the government will create some packages that just are awesome for growth and for small business. So Ben, any final thoughts there?
Hey, if anybody out there is struggling, if you need to talk to somebody, let us know. I know the state of the dental practice union, I guess, is I only know a small handful of practices that are in quarantine right now. And I know even fewer practices that are seeing an impact in terms of their patients not scheduling.
Yeah.
Or canceling. And those are predominantly in communities that are not severely affected by the disease, but that do have big ties to foreign countries that are impacted. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just mostly psychological, because most of those patients have not been to China. They have not been to Italy, but they're just reacting in an odd way that doesn't represent what's going on in the majority of the country. The vast majority of the feedback that we're getting right now is practices. It's business as usual. Nothing's really happening.
Yeah, that's what I've read. That's what I've gauged too.
Yep.
Don't be too fearful.
Yeah, but if you are one of the unlucky and you need to talk to somebody, you need to brainstorm on resources on what to do next, give us a call. Send us an email. Happy to chat with you.
Absolutely.
Keep your head up, though.
Keep your head up.
It's still going to be a great future. A little bit of a setback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Overall, everything is going to be great. Everything's going to be just
Well,
totally fine.
and again, with every what's the Think and Grow Rich book, just to end, with every negative thing, there's a positive seed, right? I don't
Right.
know if I probably butchered that quote, but Napoleon Hill, you said that in the Think and Grow Rich, which I think that book is awesome. Ben, really the only thing that I'm worried about is getting damn baby wipes.
Come to my house, man.
That is my
tons of them.
That is my concern right now. Really, that's like my number one concern. I'm like, am I gonna have to wipe baby poop with like napkins or
squirt bottles? That's what we did in the island. Yep. Or
Okay,
use your hands.
There's other alternatives. Like that's really my number one concern right now. I'm like, I go to all the stores and everything, and I'm like, everyone's just going nuts, and I'm like, baby, like I like. We're about to have a second, our third little girl, so it'll be two girls in diapers, and I'm like, damn, this is my concern. Like like everyone's freaking out about coronavirus, and like all I can think about is
toilet paper and baby wipes.
No, toilet papers. We're fine with toilet paper. Plus, I bought like just those cheap like cloth towels because everything's out. It's kind of crazy. Everything's out. So I'm like, well, there's got to be alternatives. Like, if I got to go to the bathroom, I got to go to the bathroom. And whether it's toilet paper or cloth towels, doesn't matter. But that's really my biggest concern right now is just finding baby wipes.
Amazon, dude. I just looked on Amazon.
Can you get them now? Last night we were trying to order them. Nothing.
Oh, well, this might be lying to me. Well, good luck.
Click buy, and then it'll be like not available.
Oh, jeez, that's crazy.
Anyways, we hope you guys have a great day. Stay optimistic and recession-proof your practice. And hopefully this was inspirational and helpful for everyone listening out there.
Cool. Rock on.
Rock on.